Hey, what is up guys, your boy Izokage here with part 2 of What If Deku Had a Shapeshifting Quirk. Let's begin. For a recap, you guys can go check out part 1. Izuku got the news that he finally developed his quirk. He was really excited and asked the doctor how it worked. Your quirk allows you to turn into any living organism with just a touch. This quirk is quite powerful, but with a comprehensive understanding, it can be even more powerful because you can get the traits of the animals without transforming into them. After this explanation, Izuku thought that he could finally be a hero like All Might. Later that day, he got discharged and went home. With his newfound confidence, he wanted to start training his quirk, but it relied on how many animals he's touched. So for the first week of the 10-month training period, he went to many zoos and historic museums, touching everything in sight. He touched prehistoric bones, exotic animals, and many plants and trees. And after this, he started looking for a place to train his newfound power. And he also wanted to help the community because he watched a video with All Might saying saving people does not always involve them being in danger. After a few minutes of searching, he found Dagobah Beach, which was littered with trash. Side note, when he was going around to the different zoos, Katsumi tagged along, so they're gonna train together as well. So after 3 months, Katsumi and Izuku have cleared the beach. During this time, many members of the community have stopped to see the kids' good deed and brought them refreshments and even gifts from different stores at the Dagobah Mega Mall. But one person in particular has seen the two's strength and got interested. Small Might approached them and offered to train them. "Sorry old man, you might get hurt." He then transformed into his buff form and said, "I see the potential in the both of you, and I want to train you to become my successor." And in this What If, All Might sees the logic in having more than one symbol of peace instead of putting all his eggs in one basket. Deku and Katsumi agreed and started training with All Might. After 5 months of training, Deku gained a tolerance to the pain of shapeshifting and can switch between any living thing he has touched at will in 2 seconds. Katsumi has done the same training Bakugo did during the forest training arc, dipping her hand into boiling hot water to open up her pores so she can release more nitroglycerin for bigger explosions. She has also done bone density training to reduce the pain on her bones from large explosions. 2 months before the entrance exam, All Might explains to them his fight with All For One and the history of his quirk. Then All Might said, "You both are strong, but I don't know who to give it to." Deku and Katsumi hearing this would look at each other, then saying the other's name. Deku would speak up, "Me? No, it can't be me. I still have so much to figure out about my own quirk. I want you to have it." Katsumi said, "Well, what about you? What about me? You've always been such a huge All Might fan. Now you have the chance to gain his power." Deku grabbed Katsumi's hand and looked into her eyes and said, "Don't worry, I'm already strong enough to protect the people I love." Katsumi blushed and turned to All Might and said, "I will accept your quirk." For the next 2 months, Deku and Katsumi have been sparring with All Might at 45%. Then, one day, they unlocked regions of their quirk they didn't think were possible. Firstly, Katsumi started to release explosions from her feet and arms instead of only her palms, because in this What If, One For All is more of an enhancement type quirk, and it enhanced her physical ability as well as her quirk. Izuku, on the other hand, started intensely studying the microscopic level of all the animals he has and their genetic traits. So he has developed a way of shifting his own DNA into the animal traits he wants, so he can run as fast as a cheetah while hitting as hard as a raging bull. A week before the entrance exam, All Might decided to test his pupils. He told them, "I'll be going 100%, so give it your all." Deku and Katsumi got into a fighting stance before rushing at All Might. Deku grabbed Katsumi's hand and threw her towards All Might, and she released explosions from her feet, boosting her even more. She was like a missile, figuratively and literally. On impact, she let out a huge explosion, knocking All Might back, but he backflipped and landed on his feet. He thought that if he didn't block there, he would have been knocked out. They are really... And before he could finish his thought, an eagle soared down to All Might before transforming back into Izuku, then transforming his arm into a gorilla's arm, but with the weight of a blue whale behind it. This caught All Might off guard and knocked him out. He woke up in a dark, empty room where he saw his old master, Nana Shimura, and before disappearing she said, "You have chosen well." Hearing this put a smile on All Might's face, then woke up with the smell of the salty ocean and loud seagulls. It was hard for him to see as the sun was setting, casting a range of colors along the skyline. Deku, realizing All Might finally woke up, rushed over him and said, "Heck, you're finally awake. I think I overdid it a bit." All Might smiled and said, "You two are ready." On the day of the entrance exam, they both walked in confidently before bumping into Bakugo, who realized that both Katsumi and Deku was taller than him. His sister was around an inch taller at 5'7", while Deku was a whole 6 foot and had to look down at Bakugo. They both glared at him and pushed past him into the written exams. Deku made easy work of the exams, even correcting some errors on the paper. He left the room early and had many thinking that he just gave up. In this what if you get your papers marked as soon as you finish, so Deku handed his paper to Principal Nezu, who said out loud, 100%? How? Do you have any intelligence quirk or something? Even though they were in another room, the whole exam hall heard this. Deku nodded his head no and proceeded to shapeshift into a bird before reverting back. Principal Nezu was shocked that a human was smarter than him. Soon after, Katsumi got up and handed in her paper, getting a 98%, which was still amazing. Most of the exam hall knew that those two got really high marks, especially Bakugo and Ida. Bakugo, who thought Deku was quirkless and thought his sister was weak for even hanging out with him. After the exams, the practical portion was explained and everyone was assigned a gate. When Deku walked into his gate, he was surprised to see Katsumi towards the front and Bakugo staring at her. He started walking towards her but was cut off by Mr. Mind Your Own Business, aka Ida, who said, "Don't go over there. Don't you see she's trying to focus on the exam? You'll be a distraction for her." Deku got irritated and pushed past him and started making a game plan with Katsumi. When the timer went off, signaling the start of the practicals, Deku transformed into a cheetah and sped off. Katsumi, using her feet explosions, rocketed next to Izuku. They traveled side by side for a few blocks, then split off and started destroying 3 and 2-point robots, leaving the 1-pointer for everyone else to destroy. Bakugo was shocked at how strong Deku and his sister got in only 10 months, but he got angry and started thinking of ways to get back at Deku. But back to the duel, they have been destroying robots for about 20 minutes before they heard the screams of people running from a huge robot. They both smiled and started running towards it, but they heard a cry for help. It was Uraraka, who was trapped under some rubble. Deku used his ox strength to lift the rubble off her, while Katsumi dragged her out of the crack. She asked her if she was okay and Uraraka shook her head yes. Katsumi used her explosion feat to carry Uraraka away before returning back to Deku's side. They both stared at the robot, which started swinging its arm towards them. They dodged this swing though and jumped onto the arm running up the robot's body. Reaching the top of the robot, they both jumped right in front of its face, and Deku, using the strength of his animals and Katsumi using her special move, Nuke Drop, blew the robot away. But before the robot could fall onto the buildings, Deku landed and uses his special move, Divine Tree, transforming his hands into a tree root and bringing it up from the ground, catching the robot and slowly lowering it to the ground, causing minimal damage. All the teachers in the spectating booth were dumbfounded at how these two managed to fly under the radar or from the news and be so powerful. All Might stood up in his buff form and said, "I knew they had it in them," and walked out. The other heroes were amazed that these two caught the attention of the number one hero. Back to the arena, a sound went off signaling the end of the match. Recovery Girl came to get Uraraka, and as the two were leaving, Bakugo stopped them and said, raising his voice, "How did you two lose?" And before he could finish, roots ran from Bakugo's legs, wrapping around his body and blocking his mouth. Izuku walked up to Bakugo and said, "I'm not the weakling you once knew, Bakugo. I have power to take you down and anyone who stands against me, and don't you dare try to insult Katsumi, because at the rate she's going, she'll soon be even stronger than me." As Deku was walking away, he released Bakugo and dropped him to the floor. His whole world of him being the best was being challenged, and he got even angrier. He ran home and started training, but without proper guidance and him running off pure adrenaline, he crashed and his whole body became numb, unable to move. I would end it here, but let me add some spice to the what if. Meanwhile, on their way home, Deku stopped walking and Katsumi said, "Hey Deku, you alright?" "Yeah, we make a great team, don't you think?" Katsumi smiled and said, "Yeah, we probably got first place." "Hey, can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "Every day since I got my quirk, you've been in my life more and more, and my reason for always trying to get stronger is so I can protect you. I just wanted to say Izuku, I like you too." Izuku felt like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Then he felt hands reaching around him and something warm on his lips. Deku was shocked but didn't resist. He began to embrace Katsumi and he felt the same feeling from the day he was going to jump, this feeling of a heaven on earth. Katsumi eased off Deku and smiled. "You should see your face right now. You're as red as a tomato." "Oh, what? No, I'm not." Katsumi began to laugh and grabbed Deku's hand and ran to Dagobah Beach, where there was a bench in front of the ocean. They spent all evening talking and watching the sunset. As it did, Deku said, "Don't you have to go home? It's getting late." "Yeah, you're right." Deku walked Katsumi home, and as she was about to go, Deku gave her a peck on the cheek and said that was payback for earlier. She slightly blushed and said, "Message me when you're home." Katsumi walked in to see her mom staring at her and said, "So, Izuku Midoriya, huh? He's a good catch. And I heard from Inko that he's gotten really strong lately." Katsumi started blushing even harder and ran straight to her room. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked, like. If you didn't, dislike. And if you guys have any what if suggestions or want me to change up this what if, leave it in the comment below. And I'll see you guys next time. Later.